Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here, and as I talked about in my previous video, Happy October, I want to spend this month talking about all the Halloween films. I've talked about each one a little bit here and there in different videos on this channel over the course of the past 4 years and over on the Sausage Factory channel, but I've never really sat down and discussed each film in detail, and that's what I want to do this month. I love October, I love Halloween, and that's what I have dedicated myself to doing for you guys. Before I dive into the original Halloween, I want to direct you guys to go over to my blog, which I'll put a link in the description below. I recently posted a poll asking you guys what your favorite Halloween film is. Not necessarily what you think is the best of the series, but what your favorite Halloween film is and why. So go vote on that and leave a comment in the comment section of the blog explaining why your favorite Halloween film is your favorite. But of course, to kick off, my Halloween talk, I have to start talking about the original Halloween from 1978, co-written by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, directed by John Carpenter. And it's a pretty daunting task, I have to say, because what's not been said about this film? It is, of course, a classic. It deserves that status in this genre. And B, I could talk about this film for, this video could be 20, 30, 40 minutes long, an hour, and there's things I'm going to gloss over, there's things I'm not going to mention. As simplistic as it is, there's a lot going on and there's a lot to praise. And I'm sure I'm not going to cover all the bases, but if I leave anything out, you guys let me know in the comment section, and we'll discuss it in the comment section below. But talk about a film of meager beginnings. The film was born of this single idea from the executive producer, Irwin Yablans. He hired John Carpenter to make a film that featured the boogeyman stalking babysitters on Halloween. And now keep in mind, this is years before, the sleazy, schlocky slasher movies of the 80s that took that idea and just ran for it, went into just the sleaziest, schlockiest territory with, just mass serial killer chasing after, scantily clad young women. And in the hands of a lesser filmmaker, Halloween very easily could have went right down that same path. In the hands of John Carpenter and in the hands of Deborah Hill, it became, the story is very simplistic. The story is very pedestrian, but the story and the setting seems real. This could happen to you. They create such just a real, cozy suburban sort of landscape, and you're supposed to feel safe in the suburbs. You're supposed to feel secure in the suburbs. Bad things happen to people in the cities. Bad things happen to people deep in the country. They don't happen to people on, Main Street and the suburbs. It's just not supposed to happen. And they created such a realistic landscape with, the film was shot in California, but they mask it so well. It doesn't look like California. Yeah, you see some pine trees here and there in the background, but for the most part, it looks like any Midwestern town. It looks like fall. All the leaves, all the dead leaves that are blowing around in the frames or laying on the grass in certain frames, those were all man-made. Those were all created after they said cut. Somebody went and scooped all those up and put them in a bag, and they took them over to the next scene to dress the next place, the next location. But the film looks and feels so real, so honest, so believable. And talk about ingenuity. That opening sequence with the Steadicam, going around, showing the house, going around the house, going in the house, going up the stairs, with this sort of, unknown POV, and watching, yourself kill this young woman. Of course, later, we track him downstairs and into the front yard, and it's young Michael Myers. Of course, there's several cuts in that sequence, but they hadn't really used Steadicam very much before that point. It was still kind of a new thing. The use of the widescreen Panavision lens to just blow everything up, make everything look so huge. was something that not a lot of people used, and especially when you take into consideration this was a really low budget film with not a big shooting schedule. I mean, they were really being innovative. And you know, there are some cuts in that sequence, but it's really, I mean, wow, you'd think it's a much bigger movie in scope than it really is, or as far as budget is concerned. But that really sets up, I think, you know, the rest of the film, and kind of knocks the viewer a little off kilter. And the rest of the film, you know, people have talked about, you know, the way the film looks. You know, like I said, that wide screen, the fact that, you know, how Carpenter creates suspense and how he framed the film, and how, you know, evil was just looming behind every corner, behind every shrub, just around every corner, in every dark space, evil was lurking. You know, his ability to establish that. And keep in mind, he'd only done one feature film before and a TV film. That's it. But to be able to create that kind of mood and that kind of suspense, basically a novice filmmaker at that point, really astounding. The characters that he and Deborah Hill created, including, you know, Donald Pleasence's character, Dr. Loomis, Jamie Lee Curtis's character of Laurie Strode. You know, Carpenter took sort of, you know, he wrote for the Dr. Loomis character, whereas Deborah Hill wrote for, you know, the female characters. And that's why, I mean, you get this nice blend of, you know, you've got, you know, the hardened, you know, sort of, you know, Dr. Loomis, he had the devil's eyes, and then you've got, you know, the girls walking down the street talking about, you know, boyfriend being pushed into the girls' locker room, and, you know, just a lot of fun stuff. You've got a believable location, a believable landscape, a believable setting. You've got, you know, real, you know, characters that feel real, and then you add this element of evil. You add Michael Myers to the scenario, and you've got trouble. And when I say evil, you know, they personified Michael Myers as evil, as a force, not as a person. You know, Carpenter even said in an interview, you know, at the point where Jamie Lee Curtis's character rips off the mask and you actually see the face of Michael Myers, he wanted people to scream. It's just a young guy's face. It's not the devil, but he wanted it to be, you know, he wanted audiences to think that, you know, behind that mask was just something totally inhuman. And when it's revealed that, you know, it's a kid, he's the same age as, pretty much the same age as you know, the people that he's stalking and killing, audiences gasped, audiences screamed. Being able to create that kind of mystique for your character, to give them this, you know, these preternatural qualities, and establish them as a force of evil, not human at all. A lot of that also, I think, has to be attributed to the mask. And of course, you know, it wasn't Halloween. There weren't, you know, just mask places or costume places around that they could just go buy a mask. They actually went to a costume shop, the production designer Tommy Lee Wallace, and he picked out several masks, one of them being a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask. He took it back to the set, he painted it white, he teased out the hair, he cut the eye holes bigger, and wow, what, you know, I mean, a legend was born, a legend, an iconic horror figure was born. And, you know, most people say, well, you know, it's that white, sort of expressionless, pale face that you can just superimpose your own, you know, deepest fears or, you know, whatever on, and, you know, your deepest fears are reflected in that mask. I'm not sure about that. I just think it's, you know, that's maybe reading into it a little too deep. I don't know. I just think it's a cool look. I mean, you've just got a white, sort of expressionless mask, which, I mean, I think that's how Dr. Loomis described Michael Myers, as being pale and emotionless, and, you know, having the devil's eyes. It's a perfect mask for, you know, that character. The performances are fantastic by the entire cast. I mean, they had Donald Pleasence, I think, for like 2 days, 3 days to shoot him out as Dr. Loomis. Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, you know, the original Scream Queen. She had good genes to be a Scream Queen. Of course, her mother was Janet Leigh from Psycho, who may actually be the original Scream Queen, I guess you could say. But you established Jamie Lee Curtis as a Scream Queen. And, you know, Nancy Loomis, PJ Souls, fantastic as well. Just a great cast. Great characters, very believable. And, you know, this force of evil coming after them all. The suspense is top notch. I mean, Carpenter, you know, tightening those screws, you know, just fantastic. The music, phenomenal, done by Carpenter himself. He was quoted as saying that, you know, he had a screening for the film for some exec at some studio, I forget where, before he had done the music and put the music in the film. And the executive was like, this movie isn't scary, I don't, you know, it's just not scary. Add the music to the film. You know, I mean, that shows what an impact music can have, especially on a genre film. But music, yeah, I mean, of course, that music is iconic. I mean, that music, the Halloween theme is right up there with the Jaws theme, as far as I'm concerned, as like just totally iconic. And, you know, I mean, most people, everybody knows the Jaws theme, whether they've seen Jaws or not. Pretty much everybody knows the Halloween theme, whether they've seen Halloween or not. But yeah, just phenomenal music in that film. The ending, very powerful. Love the ending of the film. Dr. Loomis, and I don't think this is a spoiler, Dr. Loomis shoots Michael Myers 6 times. He falls off the balcony. Dr. Loomis goes to check on him, and of course, he's gone. And those closing frames that Tommy Lee Wallace said that they just sort of cut together to close out the film with Michael Myers breathing over it, that was supposed to signify that, you know, not only is the evil still free, still out there, but now he's everywhere. Really, really powerful stuff. And of course, Halloween was an enormous hit. It was a slow burn before it became a huge hit, which of course movies now, if they're not a hit that first weekend, they're gone. This was a movie that built and built and built, and then it became a huge hit. It was the highest grossing independent film for many, many years, up until the Blair Witch Project was released. It was a film, you know, it's one of the rare horror films that crossed over into pop culture, that not only did horror buffs love, you know, critics loved, just regular audiences loved. It was sort of, for my mother's generation, what kind of Scream was for my generation. It is a complete and utter masterpiece. It's a classic. Roger Ebert said that he would compare it to Psycho. I totally agree. You know, again, I mean, what can you say about Halloween that hasn't already been said? It's just, it's pretty much a flawless film, I think, really. It's one of those films that, you know, has been duplicated, has been sequelized, has been remade over and over again, but none of the sequels, the remake certainly doesn't begin to touch the original as far as just how well done the film is on literally every single level. It's just a phenomenal film. So yeah, I guess I've done the film justice. I hope I touched on a lot of the big, you know, bullet points with that film, as far as, you know, how and why it was such a success. And yeah, you know, it launched John Carpenter's career. It launched him into, you know, the master of horror that he is today. And yeah, I mean, I just can't say enough nice things about it. It is one of a kind, a brilliant film. Anybody out there who hasn't seen the original Halloween, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You should own it. Not just see it, but you should own it. And anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there for the original Halloween. Hope you guys enjoyed please leave comments below. Check out that blog post and vote on your favorite Halloween film. And I'll see you guys soon with my review of Halloween 2. More from the night he came home. So I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.